Good evening, everybody. We are back after a week of the safety and the Sportswriter with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe getting ready to talk about a big world of sports. Lots of football to get to tonight. Lots and lots and lots. We're right in the middle of preseason and everything. But before we get started, I have to send out and go to a different sport. In the New York area, we lost one of the great ambassadors of sport overall and a great hockey player, Raj Gilbert. 80 years old. He's one of these guys who's so beloved, especially in the New York area. And he was someone who never won a championship and still is one of the most beloved players of all time. He didn't, not the usual thing now. I don't know if sports talk radio was around when he was playing. He wouldn't have gotten hammered the way everybody else gets hammered. If you don't win a championship, you can't be a champion. Well, he was a champion, and he was an ambassador in this area, came from Montreal, came down here, made New York his home even after he retired. And there was never – I'll put him right up there as with Derek Jeter, Joe Namath, any sports legend that came into the New York area as how the people of New York felt about him. And he had a nice, long life. I applaud him for everything he did. But he will be missed.
Well said.
So I did a lot of watching of some preseason football this weekend. We have a lot of monkey wrenches going around, and one thing I want to start up with is I want our brethren in sports media to stop taking this one coach speak item and running with it. We're in a quarterback competition, okay? Justin Fields is establishing himself where he will have no choice but to make him the starting quarterback. And you and I know he knew he was eventually going to be it. I heard somebody today actually saying Urban Meyer is trying to sell that Trevor Lawrence won't be his starting quarterback. It's all BS. It's all coach speak. And anybody who occupies the time to talk about it like it's real is wasting their time.
I agree 100%. The overreaction to preseason is always a little bit ridiculous this time of year. But the people that actually listen to the coaches talking right now and believe anything they say to the media is just beyond me. Everything that most of these teams are doing right now is cloak and dagger. They don't want any of the other teams knowing what they're going to do for the regular season. They don't want any of the teams knowing which quarterback to prepare for. They don't want anyone knowing even which of their players that they like. Because they want to hide them on the practice squad. They want to, a lot of them, they're waiving so they don't have to pay their contracts, and they want them to clear waivers so they can sign them back.
Right.
And, it's over and over again. But if I hear one, I seriously feel like Coach Nagy is Andy Dalton's agent. Every time I hear him talk, he talks about, I heard an interview yesterday, and he sat and talked about how the other players keep coming up to him and telling him how much they are enjoying Andy Dalton being their teammate and how much it means to them having Andy Dalton as their teammate. You know what? Andy Dalton could wash my damn car every day, and I still would not sit here and tell you that he's good at football, because the guy never was able to get the Bengals over the hump despite having some very good teams, and just blew himself out of the water last year when he got his shot in Dallas, and it's looked horrible every minute he's been on the field for the Bears. So if you can sit there and tell me, you can sit there and tell me how great a guy he is, but if you want to tell me that he is leading the leader in the clubhouse for the starting job, then I'm going to tell you you're a liar, because there's no way if you're watching the same tape that I'm watching that Andy Dalton's going to be the starter on opening day. There's no way it's going to happen.
I think, when Andy Dalton, to be fair, I think he's a third-tier quarterback who landed himself in probably the perfect position for him when he was with Cincinnati, because, Cincinnati is cheap. Cincinnati at the time didn't know what they wanted to do. I mean, he got there at the end of the Marvin Lewis era, and Marvin knew how to milk everything he could out of what talent he was given to play with, and he was lucky about that. And I think it kind of hit a multitude of Andy's weaknesses. And as he's moved away from it, you see the real Andy Dalton, and I think he's what you describe or should be, is a good second string, third string quarterback. But you don't want him there for more than 1 or 2 games. That's it. It's like that's all he can do. Although the one thing I wanted to bring up to you, I was thinking of you today when I heard this, was everybody's floating about Nick Foles going back to Dallas because now it looks like Dak Prescott is not going to be ready for the beginning of the regular season. And I'm like, well, if you're going to pick one of the Chicago quarterbacks, why wouldn't you try and get Dalton? You're Dallas. You know him. He knows your players.
I agree. Every player, every team that has a quarterback going down right now with injury or a quarterback who's not going to be ready, they're all about to sign Nick Foles. You remember a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the Colts and Carson Wentz going down. We said that the Colts should sign Nick Foles. Well, that I really agree with and really meant, because I think that would be a perfect place for him. Jacob Eason's looked okay. Ellinger's not a pro quarterback, at least not right now, but I wouldn't trust either one of them for 5 or 6 games. And you're probably going to have to play them 5 or 6 games if they're the backup to Carson Wentz. So I thought the Colts is really somewhere he should go. The other place I really think Nick Foles should go is New York. I think the Jets would be a fabulous location for him. For Wilson to learn under, and for him to learn how to be a pro under, but also to play. I mean, there's no guarantees anymore in the NFL that your quarterback is going to last the entire season, especially having to play 17 games. And going into the season with the quarterbacks that they've got in New York, I think is just a joke. I don't know if you recall, but that time that we did the show or the segment on our show about quarterback depth and the teams that I thought had the worst depth, the Titans were up there. They were probably ranked number 1, and they've done something about it. They went out and signed Matt Barkley, who may not be the greatest quarterback in the world, but Matt Barkley can win you a game or two.
He's had flashes.
And he's did a really good job backing up Josh Allen last year. And, obviously Josh Allen learned something from him because he got to be where he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league now. So I think that was a good move by the Titans. The only team that's really done nothing, so to speak, is the New York Jets, and why they're standing pat with Wilson and these 2 other clowns. I don't know.
Well, to be fair, people are Wilson's looked okay. A lot of people.
I didn't say.
No. I'm not. A lot of people.
I'm not worried about him. I think he's looked very good. I'm worried about what happens when he gets hurt. I'm worried about who does he turn to and ask questions to when something happens during the game that he needs help with.
Especially with the fact they lost their quarterback coach.
Bingo. That's the other thing I'm talking about. He passed away, in the off season, and they're kind of doing a patchwork thing with coaching the quarterbacks right now, which is a great point that I didn't even mention, but is another excellent reason why Nick Foles should be in the mix there. And I don't know really why the Bears are still holding on to him, but it doesn't make any sense. The Bears should move on from him. They don't want to pay his salary to be their third string quarterback. I think Justin Fields has shown enough, even up to this point, where the Bears should get help, especially considering they've got other injury problems of their own. And we'll talk about injuries here in a minute, because there's some teams that have had some very important guys already go down. But I don't understand why the Bears don't move Nick Foles, get whatever they can get, and call it a day.
Yeah, totally. Now's the time. You can't wait. You're going to have to cut him at the end of training camp. You're not going to keep 3 quarterbacks. That'd be ridiculous. So you're going to have to cut him. So you might as well get something back for him while you can, rather than cut him and let him, or go and get signed somewhere else. When I looked at the Giants, so I was watching them, especially against the Browns, because they are my team. I mean, Glennon, not enough for me to be happy with. He dinks and dunks. I don't know. I know years ago people said he was a guy that only needed one big chance in Tampa Bay and he turned that place around. Well, I don't know where they saw that. I don't even know if Danny Dimes ain't the guy, if he's somebody I want him competing with. I mean, I just, it's Danny Dimes or bust. And I don't know if the Giants wouldn't be in looks for someone like a Foles, or, it's the rest of that team that bothered me was, I know we were playing a lot of second team. They were playing a lot of second team defense. Man, the tackling is bad still right now on that team. Outside of their first stringers, I mean, I don't want to see them get in these habits. They were playing the Browns, who are one of the best teams, but even the Browns didn't have Baker Mayfield or anybody in there. And I mean, I guess it's a victory of sorts to keep Case Keenum, who has taken a team to an NFC Championship game, to 14 points. But still, the Giants didn't show me enough, and I'm like sitting there going, at the same time I'm looking, well, Dak might not be ready. The Eagles just got pasted by the Patriots, even though Jalen Hurts didn't play, which hurt them. They had to have Flacco and then nobody. And the fact that the Redskins are the Redskins, I still think they're going to win with their defense. The Giants really need to take this next week and working against New England and either transform themselves into a team that's going to compete and get out of that gate fast, or we're going to be looking at a sad, sad season again.
Yeah, I watched the Giants game too, and since you mentioned that, maybe we'll talk about that game first. What the hell are they doing? I mean, Daniel Jones, is by no means an elite NFL quarterback yet. Can he possibly become one day? Maybe, but my God, I think he still needs work. And all that I learned about Mike Glennon on yesterday was what I already knew. He's not very good. And Case Keenum looked great because he actually knows the offense. He played under Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota. So I think he's a great backup quarterback to have for the Browns right now. But, nobody played for the Giants. I don't know if you noticed that, but there was no Saquon Barkley. There was no wide receivers.
Ingram? Where's Evan Ingram? There's a man who can't catch a pass. You think maybe he could be out there practicing on catching passes?
Exactly. Maybe he should, be catching a ball, or maybe Galladay should maybe learn how to run get some timing down with his teammates, considering he's never played a game for the Giants. I mean, the leading receiver for the New York Giants was Ryson John, who I don't know who that is.
And you won't know, and in 2 weeks you won't care who it is.
Exactly. And the second leading receiver was David Sills, who I also do not know who that is. So it's like, I don't know what the point of even playing that preseason game was, considering they didn't have anyone out there.
I'll give you a prediction of both of them. Coming soon to your local Walmart.
Yeah, it was just a really horrible display of football. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but this is something that I have taken notice of during this preseason and throughout the past several years watching the preseason. Bill Belichick plays his guys. The teams generally are good and that win in the regular season are the same teams that play their guys in the preseason. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I kind of picked up on that.
Well, the thing about Bill Belichick is, and it's everybody on his team has a job. The 53 players that he has on his roster are there for specific reasons. Even the 53rd man has something in mind for, because you know what? He played him, like you said, in the preseason. He's watched him in practices and says, this is what he can do. This is how he can help us. And at some point in the season, we're going to unveil it. You know what I mean? And that's why he was great for years. You didn't ever hear about the running back. All of a sudden, the running back would come in, run for 100 yards, and cut him the next week. Why?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I just don't understand. I mean, you only get 3 preseason games now, so why not use those and get something out of them? I mean, I don't know if you watched, and we'll talk about this game next, I guess, the Patriots and Eagles. Well, I understand that Jalen Hurts was injured, but, Joe Flacco's played a lot of football, and he looked horrible. But, the Patriots moved the ball under Cam Newton. They moved the ball when Mac Jones was out there. The running back group that the Patriots are rolling with right now is unbelievable. Sony Michel, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, J.J. Taylor, all 4 of those guys could pretty much start anywhere in this league right now. And they all played. They all had 6 or more carries in this game. And Harris and Michel and J.J. Taylor, all 3 of them were injured last year. Is he resting them and sitting them right now? He's handing them the damn football in the second week of the preseason. So, I think there's a reason why Bill Belichick has been so successful, because these guys are getting paid to play football. You don't want guys to get hurt, but you need to know what you have, and you have to have some semblance of chemistry in order to have any success once the season begins in 2.5 weeks.
I mean, how do you protect these guys from injuries? How? The guy with Larson, the defensive end for the Jets, in a practice, pops his Achilles. A practice.
Yeah, there's no way to stave off injury. I mean, these guys are going to get hurt. You're going to have people that get injured, but you can't just not play them. I mean, I don't understand that, and I get it. I wouldn't have my starting quarterback out there for 4 quarters. I wouldn't have my starting running back out there for 3 quarters running the football, but I want to get these guys loosened up, and I want to get them into the flow of playing in NFL games. And, some of these teams are just taking the exact opposite approach, and I think it's gonna hurt them.
Well, especially, when you realize through the union meetings and everything that OTAs and how much practicing you can be doing is cut so far down that pretty much the preseason is the only time a coach has really the autonomy to say, okay, you're playing 2 quarters, you're playing 3 quarters, you're playing 4 quarters. I got to see what you can do. I got to build you up. I got to be ready with you. So, I mean, to not take advantage of that is kind of hurting yourself. It's falling yourself. It's putting yourself into a false sense of security. You don't really know what you got. I mean, even the other night with Herbert not playing for the Chargers. I mean, you couldn't have him out there for 3 series, 2 series, 1 series.
Considering you have a brand new coach and a brand new offensive system, and Justin Herbert's played in a whopping total of 10 games in his entire NFL career. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe a little work would do him some good. So, yeah, I agree with that 100%. I really don't understand that. And, we'll see. I'm not saying that it matters who wins these games. It really doesn't. It means nothing. But it's to not play these guys at all and to not get them out on the field. I mean, if they're injured and they're hurt, yeah, you don't play them. But if these guys are ready to roll, I think you should put them out there at least for some sort of action. And I'm very interested to see tonight what happens. I think tonight's game is actually probably the game that I'm going to pay the closest attention to, because I'm very interested to see what the Saints look like in the post Drew Brees era.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. There was a lot said today on the radio when I was listening to it. I had to drive up to Shelton to get my computer fixed and come back down, and I was listening to local sports talk and ESPN talk radio as a whole too. And there's a lot of sentiment supposedly that Taysom is going to get a real good look. It's not a foregone conclusion that it's going to be Winston's team. And we'll see if Taysom Hill can hold off Winston. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen either of them. I'll be interested to see if Jameis Winston takes it seriously and has learned his lessons. That this is his last stop probably. So if he wants to, I don't want to say resurrect because he never really got off the ground in Tampa Bay, but if he wants to establish himself as what he was supposed to be, he's kind of run out of excuses when you've got Sean Payton as your coach. You're in a dome stadium down in Louisiana with a team that this ain't your grandfather's Saints. These are the Saints of the last 20 years who've been pretty damn good and pretty damn consistent.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I mean, this is a guy I know you hate him, but he did make the all-rookie.
Hate is a strong word. I don't root for him.
You don't like him. You don't believe in him, and I understand that. And there's a reason for that. But this is a guy who did make the all-rookie team. He started all 16 games as a rookie. He started all 16 games in his second season and led them to a 9-7 record. And then things kind of went backwards from there. And I think that's on him. I mean, that's on Jameis. But if you can sit here and tell me that standing behind and working with Drew Brees and Sean Payton every day for the last 2 years can't have an effect on someone, then I don't know what to tell you, because if ever anyone was going to help Jameis and make him better, it's going to be Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Now, does that mean that he's not going to throw any interceptions this season? Probably not. But I think this is a guy that has all the gifts that God could bestow upon someone.
So did Jeff George.
I mean, I get that. Jeff George never won a national championship in college. Jeff George never won a Heisman Trophy.
He picked bad. He made bad choices of which colleges to go to. I mean, you don't pick Illinois.
Yeah, and he wasn't one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. And Jameis Winston could be in that argument. I mean, that guy won games, won almost every game he played in college at Florida State, and led them to a national championship. And this is a guy that can win, and he can make every throw. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, if he doesn't do it and he's not good, they'll take his ass out and they'll put Taysom Hill out there.
I would just – here's where we differ. I would change your can to a should, and that's where my doubts come in. He's a guy who should, if he's serious, and I don't know if he's really serious. I don't know. Some of these guys, I don't – whatever sports you get into, you sit there like Manny Ramirez being Manny Ramirez up in Boston. You sit there and go, oh, my God, if he ever concentrated – oh, my God, if he ever took it seriously. There's, Dennis Rodman, if he ever took it seriously, man, he just learned a jump shot. There are many guys throughout sports, you sit there and you go, oh, my God, if he ever took it seriously, what he could have done with it. And there's a pile of those guys out there where when you sit there, here's the thing you say, and this is why maybe it would have helped him to sit a year behind Brady instead, and then go take his free agent, status somewhere else. Brady has no athletic ability, nothing. I mean, he thinks the game better than most people. Got a pretty good arm. He's got no speed, nothing at all like that going for him. But it's like Jameis has all those other skills, and where's the divergence? It's one guy is a football junkie who has a model wife, but would rather, spend time throwing the football around than being home with his wife. Where Jameis sits there and goes, well, I might sit there and go, I got a life that goes too. I mean, that's kind of the differences I see.
Yeah, and Tom Brady was a 6th round draft pick who had to earn his way on the team, and then had to, be a backup and watch Drew Bledsoe. And, Jameis was just kind of handed that job. People forget this, but it was kind of like Kyle Wilson of up in New York with the Jets. He was just handed the Buccaneers starting job, and he never got to learn from anyone. He was the dude. He was the guy from day one. And maybe that wasn't the best route to go with Jameis. Maybe making him earn it, maybe making him want it, and make him learn how to be a pro might have been a good idea. And that's why all these teams that just want to hand these guys the starting job from day one, it might not be the best thing to do.
You know where I think Justin Wilson has a chance is because the Jets and the Jet fans in particular are so burned with Sam Darnold. You're down there, but I mean, maybe you caught a little bit of the whiff, but I was here in the middle of this when Sam Darnold came to town. It was like I remember when Ron Powlus arrived at Notre Dame's campus, and he was going to win 3 Heisman trophies and lead them to 4 national championships. Around here is like everybody on sports talk radio, everybody in the newspapers, every fan was saying, "We've got our new Joe Namath. We're going to win Super Bowls with this guy. We're going to do this. We're going to do that." And he was anointed as the next great New York superstar in this area. And maybe it was too much for him. You and I both doubted his talent anyways. We saw the holes in his game, so we didn't go along with it. But they're being a little bit more cautious with Justin Wilson, and maybe that will give him that cushion to make mistakes and not have it fall on his head the way it did with Sam Darnold.
Zach Wilson,
sorry.
Yeah. No, I agree, but Zach Wilson also, has shown some talent. Sam Darnold, just to me, I never thought he was good. And then I was down in Carolina, obviously, this past week. So I watched the entire Carolina Panthers versus Baltimore Ravens game, which I wish I could have those 3.5 hours of my life back. But the main thing that I took away from watching that game was I'm not so sure that Will Grier isn't better than Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold only played 1 series and was quickly pulled. But just watching the way that he ran the offense in that series, and then watching Will Grier play, I'm not certain that Will Grier is not a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. And why, after watching Sam Darnold play and just do nothing of significance in New York for 3-4 years, why Carolina has just moved all the chips on the table behind Sam Darnold and gotten rid of a pretty good quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater and handed the keys to their Ferrari to Sam Darnold, I will never understand. And they can say whatever they want, but the proof is in the pudding. And I've watched this guy play now for 3 years, 4 years at USC, 4 years at New York. Now, a couple of games in the preseason for Carolina, and I've seen nothing that's leading me to believe that he's a good quarterback.
He had one very good game against Penn State. He dueled with Josh Rosen a couple of times in a UCLA-USC game. But the thing is that when you at the same time, when you look at what Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen were doing and put their statistics next to a Baker Mayfield, and their statistics are very pedestrian. You know what I mean? They would look good 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but not in today's college football where you're supposed to get 30, 40 touchdown passes a year if you're a good college quarterback. You're supposed to be throwing the ball around a lot, and they allow you, being in the spread most of the time, you're going to be slinging the ball. It's not like you're handing off, doing student body right, student body left anymore, or the option. You've got to show that you can throw the ball, and you're going to have plenty of opportunities to show you can throw the ball. And for some reason, I looked at Josh Rosen's stats the other night because it got released again, and I was never a fan of his anyways. But I'm like sitting there going, even in college, I mean, he didn't do anything. There's nothing there that sits there and goes, wow, he could put that team on his back at UCLA and take him to the Pac-12 title. I mean, where was – I know he must. I know he's got a great arm, but that doesn't translate on the field.
I agree with you. He never really did much, but I did see a couple of times where he outplayed Sam Darnold. So, I haven't really seen anything that leads me to believe that Sam Darnold's a whole lot better than him. So I don't know. But in that same game, I watched Tyler Huntley, who is the third string quarterback for the Ravens, and he had to play the entire game because Lamar Jackson was not active and Trace McSorley is out with an injury. And I got to tell you, man, I'm very impressed with this young man. 24-34 for 187 yards. Not the greatest stats, but he led the team down. I mean, they had 20 points. He led them down for scores. He showed a lot of poise. I got to be honest, at times, it kind of reminded me of Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's not even close to the same type of athlete, but this is a guy that I could see being inserted into the lineup and running a few plays if Lamar's, gets his helmet knocked off or Lamar gets hurt and is injured and is out.
Or if he has to runs again.
What's that?
Or if he has to runs again in the middle of the game and has to run to the bathroom.
Exactly. Anything like that, I could see this guy coming in and, cramps is what Lamar said it was. But regardless, whatever it is, I could see this guy coming in and taking over and doing something. He showed a lot of poise and a lot of athletic ability and just, pretty good quarterback play for being in a preseason game and being the third stringer. And I think this all goes back to your point the other day that the Ravens are for real. And I don't understand why some people are sleeping on them.
Well, I think that people have, and we respect them. I mean, people have this Steeler hangover. They kind of treat them like the heavyweight champ until they're knocked out. They still believe in them, and I still think that Ben Roethlisberger is not going to make it through this year. I'm not rooting for him getting hurt or anything, but I just think that Ben's best days are behind him. I mean, let's face facts. Eli's gone. Phillip Rivers is retired. Ben, those are the guys who came in the league at the same time as you. I know you may want to squeak one more out, but maybe not. And Cleveland's going to be very good. Baltimore's going to be very good. I didn't see a lot of Joe Burrow. Did you see any Joe Burrow sightings?
I did see him in the game. I saw your boy Shane Buechele. There was a sighting of him. He's playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you knew that. But he got inserted into the game a little bit later, but he was 9 of 11 for 115 yards and a touchdown and threw a really nice touchdown pass. But the Bengals played against the Washington football team, and Joe Burrow did not take a snap. So, I think we're going to see him on week 1. This is a guy that I don't really mind him being
he's coming off an injury. I just wondered if he
tore every ligament in his knee. Okay, yeah. I understand why Joe Burrow isn't out there. It's the rest of these guys. I don't really get it. Jalen Hurts could probably use some work, and I understand he supposedly had an injury to his abdomen, but he could probably use a little work out there. And same thing with Justin Herbert. I mean, yeah, he had a good season. He showed a lot of ability, but this is a guy too. Like I said, brand new coach. Brand new scheme, brand new system. Maybe give him some work.
Yeah, a new team around you. Shane Buechele. I mean, I like the kid. I thought he got a raw deal at Texas, and he recovered his career at SMU. But I got 3 letters for him: CFL, Canadian Football League. Shane, go up there. Where you gonna play?
Hey, he looked pretty good. I'm telling you, I've been really examining these backup quarterbacks in these games because that's the only guys you get to see play. And Arizona's got your boy Colt McCoy because the Giants let him walk. And he actually didn't play great, but he still proved that he can be an NFL quarterback. The Kansas City's got Chad Henne, who's a 14-year veteran and was 6 of 8 for 82 yards and a touchdown in his action with a 146.9 rating. That's pretty good. And then Shane Buechele came in, and as I said before, 9 of 11 for 115 and a touchdown. Pretty damn good. And then their undrafted rookie free agent Anthony Gordon came in, who I don't even know who he is, but I watched him play, and he was 7 of 7 for 42 yards. So pretty good. Pretty good to be the quarterback of the Chiefs, no matter what string you are, I guess.
Yeah, I tell you, Andy Reid could take a guy. He could get Johnny Unitas out of his grave and get him to go 7 for 10. I think because he just has that offense that. For us, it looks complicated, but he coaches these guys to where it's just they don't even have to think. It's like all reactions. Kind of like I was watching. The other night I was watching the old NFL profile of or the biography of Bill Walsh, and the way he put his offense together, where as he said to when he was teaching Steve Young, he goes, "Don't think about where the receivers are. Count your footsteps. At a 3-step drop, here's your receiver. Your 5-step, here's your receiver. If you get to 7, this is where you're going with the ball." And he goes, "You will complete the pass because they'll be open. This offense is set to be those guys to be open." When you hit that step, and Andy Reid comes from that tree.
Yeah, he's one of the best coaches in NFL history. I mean, what he did in Philadelphia. I know he didn't win a Super Bowl, and I know that a lot of Eagles fans, especially at the time, held that against him. But this guy brought a winning culture to that Eagles locker room the day that he arrived, and what he was able to do with Donovan McNabb and pretty much nobody else on offense was just unbelievable. And living there and working for Fox Sports Net like I did and getting to see it up close, I'm just like, this guy is winning ball games with James Pinkston and James Thrash and Todd Pinkston out there. I'm like, it's unbelievable. And, he's continued to do it. And you give him a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and some actual guys that can score points and you'll get your Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's no ceiling on what Kansas City can do. It's gonna have to be the Chargers coming up and matching them, and we'll see if they did. What did you think of? Did you take a look at that new stadium the Chargers have?
SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
I got to see a glimpse of it last year. Obviously, they didn't have fans last year, but they're playing in the same stadium that the Rams played in last year and that the Chargers played in last year, and it's pretty cool. I would like to. I really would like to take a trip out to Vegas and see the new Raiders stadium because that place looks amazing, and I'd like to also get out to SoFi, even though I hate LA. I'd like to get out there and see a game in that because that stadium looks pretty cool too.
Well, the only thing about these new stadiums, and Giant Stadium, the monstrosity in the Meadowlands, I didn't like when that first went up, and I still don't like it that much. But even they don't have as many bells and whistles as these other ones seem to have. The double side made, the video screens, which are just outrageous. It's like you're not going to watch the field anymore. You'll be watching the video screen because your eyes won't be able to get away from that video screen, and they'll probably have all the stats and everything. You watch everything all in one look. So, yeah, it looked like a pretty cool stadium. But again, probably not one that I'm going to visit because, like you said, LA is not my town.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. But I do. I must admit that I'm not a Chicago fan either. Never really been a Bears guy. But I've got to admit, I find myself cheering for the Bears right now because I just, I love Justin Fields. I love him as a player. I love him as a human being. He's just a great guy. And I think he's proving to everyone that he should have been the second quarterback taken and potentially the first because he is he's proven, not even getting the starter reps like some of these other guys are. He's splitting these reps right now with the red water pistol and Nick Foles, and he's still to be doing what he's doing. I think really shows the kind of talent that Justin has.
Well, I think I think as an outside observer of the NFL or NFC North, there's two teams you kind of always root for. You used to root for the Packers, but Aaron Rodgers has turned that into a double-edged sword. If you root for the Packers, you're rooting for Aaron Rodgers and his whining nature of going through life. The Vikings have always never held it for me. But the Bears do have, there's a romanticism between it because their history with the NFL, and you feel so sorry for the Lions. I mean, I don't see how even if they even go off if he has a good year. I mean, I saw some pretty good tape of him in practice and stuff like that, and he seems to be okay with the move. Maybe it was a good move for him to get away from McVay. Maybe McVay was driving him crazy. Maybe Campbell is somebody you can get in his head and give him enough to be successful. But those poor people in Detroit. It's been so you get Billy Sims for a little while, and then his knees go. You get Barry Sanders, and then he just gets tired of getting beat up, and he leaves. You get Megatron for a little while, and he says, "I'm sick of him not getting the reward of a playoff." And along that line, these fans have been there for years, with nobody staying and being able to lead them to the promised land. So I kind of root for Detroit on the outside too.
Yeah, no, I do too. That's a stadium that you should definitely go to is Ford Field in Detroit. One of the coolest places I've ever been in my life. It just the way they built it. It's kind of like built into the side of a warehouse. And it's so cool. It's kind of small, maybe 55, 60,000 people maximum, but every seat is good. And it can get pretty loud in there, but it's just a really, really cool place to see a football game. And I would love to see them, be a winner. It just their roster right now is not set up to do that, I'm afraid.
Who knows? Maybe one time since I don't, per se have a family to celebrate it with, maybe I'll do Turkey Day out there.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's a fun place to go watch a football game, and I've gone to several, and every single one has been fun and enjoyable because it's the people there are all crazy and they all love their Lions even though they suck most of the time, and it's just a really cool environment to watch a football game. So I hope that they have the a good season. I hope that Campbell is the guy that can bring them back, because since they fired Jim Caldwell, that franchise has been a disaster, and that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. But Jim Caldwell had them going in the right direction for the first time in 58 years, and they can his ass. And I've never understood that, and I will be questioning that move till the day I die.
Well, there's so many of those moves that happen. I mean, and it's a lot of it. I tell you, already you're sports pundits about what coach is going to make it through, what GM is going to make it through. It's like we haven't even played a game yet. And speaking of somebody who's making a big move and a GM and coach are particularly heading in the right direction, we had another game with Mr. Lance and Mr. Garoppolo. And Mr. Garoppolo did not look close to what he needs to be. But Lance shows he has a lot of learning to do. So is this whole move, this whole San Francisco thing going to blow up in Shanahan's face?
I think it's potential. I mean, Garoppolo did not look great against the Chargers yesterday. I think he finished 3 of 6 for 15 yards and had an interception. So, not really good. And you know what? How can you blame the guy? I mean, he's trying to work his way back from injury, and he's already been replaced without even giving him a chance to make his way back. So,
right.
I don't really understand that. If you want to move on from him, then move on from him. Don't keep him and hold him hostage. I really don't. It has to have been a really uncomfortable camp for him I can't even imagine.
Especially right now, you could give him a backdoor out in Dallas. You can give him a backdoor out in with the Colts. You can give him a backdoor out with a number of teams who might want to take him on as a backup quarterback, or you release him so they don't have to pay him. They'll just sign him for the minimum or whatever. But why they're holding on to him, and it's kind of cruel.
Yeah, no, I really, the guy's makes $8 million a year, so I don't feel real bad for him. But at the same time, this guy took you to the Super Bowl, and that doesn't get you as far as it used to. In case you haven't noticed, Coach Johnson, from the Eagles, he led them to their first Super Bowl victory ever, and he was shown the door as well. And Jimmy Garoppolo gets nicked up, and all of a sudden, he's no good anymore. So, same thing with your boy in Los Angeles with the Rams. Jared Goff, he leads them to a Super Bowl, and they moved on from him. So, getting to the Super Bowl no longer means that you're going to be around or starting, I guess, as long as it needs to.
No, in a way, it's kind of crazy because you think about it is, at least the Rams just cut the ties. They put Goff in their city, and it's fine.
Yeah,
but the 49ers are doing it halfway.
Yeah, no, I respect what the Rams did. At least he decided, I don't want this guy to be my quarterback anymore. Let's get him the hell out of here. And he got the guy he wanted. He sent Goff out of town, and he moved on. And I respect that. I'm that guy's not my favorite coach. Speaking about McVay, but I did like that move, and I like the way that he at least let Jared go instead of holding him hostage for a year like the San Francisco 49ers are doing. But it's going to be interesting, and as we mentioned, there's going to be more injuries to happen beyond what's already occurred because these guys, half of them are getting hurt in non-contact drills, and so we'll see what happens with the quarterbacks because there'll be more movement as more and more injuries start piling up. But as you mentioned before, and I'd like to get back to it, that Jets injury, Carl Lawson may not have had 20 sacks last year, but with a team that has a very limited pass rush to begin with, I think him going down with Achilles and being gone is a big, big blow to the Jets, not only on the field and with production, but also off the field and the way that Carl was becoming a leader in the locker room.
Yeah, and for a young team, you can't afford to lose that kind of veteran leadership, and especially when you're a defensive-minded coach. And the Jets are going to need everything they can get. I mean, even if Zach Wilson becomes what we don't know if he can become, it's going to be hard for them in that division because right now, as you said, the Patriots look like they're back. The Bills look like they're staying. They ain't going anywhere. And Miami hasn't looked bad. So, I mean, you're looking at last place again for the Jets.
And Lawson was one of the few guys that could actually be a leader on this team, with a rookie quarterback who's just been handed the keys to the car. So I think that's a big time injury. I also am very concerned about, the Bears offensive line. Let's be honest, it was a disaster last year. And, they went out, and I really liked the move of getting Tevin Jenkins and drafting him and putting him on the roster. And he was pretty much, let's be honest, he was pretty much penciled in as the starter at left tackle. And, he's probably going to be out for the season. This is a guy who I'm still trying to figure out how he passed a physical to begin with. And why they drafted him, because he just had to go under back surgery. And one thing you don't want a starting left tackle who is 6'5", 300 plus pounds to have problems with
back
is their back.
Yeah.
And I think I just, to me, I know they're not making a big deal about it right now, but to me, Tevin Jenkins having that back surgery is a bigger deal than they're letting on. And, he's supposed to be able to return sometime this season, but their offensive line already sucks. And to not have him at all out there, I think is going to be not good.
When you think about coaches and their first shots, sometimes you sit there and you go, like Robert Salah. I mean, did you have to pick the Jets? Did you not do your scouting and see them? Miami's on its way up. The Bills are already a step away probably from being a Super Bowl team, if not a Super Bowl team already. And you have the greatest coach of the past 20 years also in that division looking to reclaim his spot. And you're going to step in with a rookie quarterback and a messed up team with a history of disappointing their fans. He might have wanted to pick one of these other open jobs that were open.
Yeah, I really like him. I've liked.
I do too.
I've really liked him. I liked him, everywhere he's been. He started his career with Pete Carroll out in Seattle, and everybody loved him there. And he brought a lot of injury to the Seahawks and was a big factor for them. And then, obviously transformed that defense in San Francisco. And I've loved his energy. I love his approach. But it's going to be a tough gig. Especially with the roster he's inherited. I'm just not sold on it. And then, talking about tackles, Tevin Jenkins, I think, is a big injury. And then also, I'm concerned about the Packers and David Bakhtiari. This guy's on the PUP list. And, Aaron Rodgers, coming back and everything's supposed to be all, unicorns and rainbows up there. But if he doesn't have his left tackle out on the field, then there's no guarantee that Bakhtiari is going to be out there week one. In fact, there's no guarantee that he's going to be out there in one of the first few games. And I think that's a big injury. And then, obviously we talked at nauseum about Cam Akers and his injury with the Rams. I think that's a big injury. And then also the Ravens, losing LJ Fort. I know he's been kind of a journeyman, but he found a home in Baltimore in the middle of their defense. And I think, not the end of the world for the Ravens that LJ Ford has done, but I do think their defense is going to take a step backwards without having him in the mix.
Well, this is where now there's openings for players to make their moves, and the good thing about it is there are going to be some cuts coming up. So if you're a team that's kind of looking to bring in some people to audition. If you don't have them on your roster, you're going to get some chances to bring some other guys in, get a quick look at them, see what you can do. But this is why GMs get paid big money. It's you have to go now on the waiver wires. You look at the guys, especially a veteran who's getting cut from another team, who can maybe come in and give you 4 or 5 weeks. This is what it's all about. So, like you said, though, injuries is something you can't plan for in football. It's something you got to adjust to, but there is something to be said that maybe these OTAs and not doing all that work in the spring is not beneficial to these guys. You're out there toughening yourself up. I understand nobody wants to be running around, getting yelled at and the repetition. No one loved practice. It was all about getting ready for the game and being ready for the game. So a spring practice is even worse than any other practice, during the season, because you're not even getting ready for anything. But it does get you in. They get to see what's going on with you, check you out. Maybe catch an injury before it happens. Do some things like that. You never know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just remember, and we had my old coach on the other day and talked about it. We had 3-a-days, and I got to be honest, when the games came around, it was so easy. The games were we loved the games, and we just enjoyed the game because practice was so damn hard that we all longed for the next game to come, because it was so easy playing in a game compared to playing in practice. And now it's, they barely do anything, and half of them don't even go out on the practice field anymore. And if they do, they certainly don't get touched by anybody else. So I don't know. There's been a lot of injuries. I think some of these are more important than others, but I do think, we talk at nauseum about Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, but for either one of those guys to have success, they're going to have Michael Thomas out on the field. And, what the hell is going on there? I mean, I've tried not to talk about this because I hate getting in the middle of the, team versus the player and all that crap. But, what the hell's going on? I mean, the guy has surgery in June on a foot when he's a wide receiver, and, he's not going to be available for week 1. And, that's not good for the Saints, man. I mean, you want to break in a new quarterback for the first time in 15 years, and you want to take out your best weapon. I think this is a big problem for the Saints, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and he's so much the face of that franchise down there. I know he does a lot of community work, and they love him and everything. And you'd hate to think that the fans might turn on him, or something like that, because he's not playing or something. You don't know what fans will react to. But yeah, you're right. It's kind of like, I remember, not to compare the sports, but I remember the year as a Met fan when Carlos Beltran decided to have knee surgery just before spring training.
Yeah.
It's like, you couldn't have it in November.
Yeah.
You couldn't have it in October. They didn't go to the playoffs. Have it the week after the season ends. You still might not be ready, but you got a better chance of being ready. Now you're talking about coming back at the All-Star break. You know what I mean? It's like, foot injury for a wide receiver, that could be something that lingers all year long. And back to the Dak Prescott thing. What do you think's going on down there?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I all that I heard the last couple of weeks was, how great he was doing and how his leg was fully healed. He was going to be ready for opening day. They keep saying that, but yet he's now not allowed to throw the ball. And, the shoulder thing is, I think, a little bit more, there's more to it than what they're leading on. And, I liked how you brought it up before, because what the hell are they going to do if Dak Prescott's not ready to go? I mean, they couldn't win with Andy Dalton and, Ben DiNucci and Cooper Rush. I mean, they are not the same caliber. I mean, I guess they somewhat like Gilbert, but once again, I mean, I don't know. This Cowboys team, they need to win right now. And, they're not going to they kind of gave Mike McCarthy a pass last year, but he's not going to get a pass this year. And they don't have Dak Prescott out there. And if he's not 100%, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, you got to wonder, where did this injury come from? I mean, you suddenly woke up and his shoulder's injured. I mean, it is something that's been lingering. It's something he's been hiding. Something he's been hoping would go away. Instead of what they're doing right now, shut him down. They've shut him down. But I mean, send him. I guess they're starting to send him to the experts like Dr. Andrews and those guys to have them take a look at it. But that's never good. I know it's never good in baseball, because you have surgery.
I really like your point. Who allowed this guy to throw the football so much that he hurt his shoulder? I mean, we don't let these guys step on the field in preseason, but we've let the guy who's coming back from a bone break that went outside of his skin on national television, and we're letting him throw the football until he's broken his shoulder now. I mean, who's responsible for this? And who's running this ship down there? I mean, I kind of stood up for McCarthy a little bit last year, because everything that could possibly go wrong kind of went wrong. But at some point, you got to look at him and be like, what are you doing down here? It's just been a disaster ever since he arrived.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not something that wasn't going on under Dave Campo or Wade Phillips or even Bill Parcells to a point, or even Jason Garrett. Jerry Jones, as long as he's going to be Jerry with his TV or his radio shows and be the guy they go to for the soundbite after the game, no coach is ever going to really put his stamp on a team down there.
No, that's true.
There's no reason, because it's, if you put your stamp on it, he's gonna just go about and tell people the exact opposite of what you just said, and he allows players to circumvent the chain of command. I mean, if he told Dak Prescott, if McCarthy told Prescott, do not throw the ball, because if your legs aren't right, your arm won't be right. Dak might just sit there and go, look, I've always thrown this that way in the offseason, Jerry, and he's telling me I can't. Well, you just do what you want, Dak. It's like this is the guy that fired Jimmy Johnson after winning 2 Super Bowls. So yeah. I mean, it's like he's had the Maserati and he keeps running into the same wall. I mean, the only thing that you could say about it right now is if there is something really wrong with Dak, he's not falling apart mid-season like they usually would. So they're not giving the Cowboys a little hope for they won't even have a good September, October, because they'll be getting beat up.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm interested to see how it goes. But you got down in Atlanta too. I mean, AJ McCarron goes down in their practice and non-contact injury, tears his ACL, and it's kind of like, okay, so now we've got 47-year-old Matt Ryan and undrafted rookie free agent Felipe Franks. They've got a problem there now too. I mean, I kind of liked AJ McCarron, honestly, just as a guy to take over if Matt Ryan were to go down. They finally let Matt Schaub, who was, I think, older than Matt Ryan, walk. And what happens? But then the guy they replace him with goes down in a practice drill. So it can happen at any moment.
One of the saddest, I forget what show it was on, but it was one of the saddest things I saw. It was on like 3 weeks ago. And it was that ACC show in the morning. And they showed over the last 20 years what ACC players or in their careers, what ACC football players had that made the most money in the NFL. And Matt Ryan's number one. Matt Ryan's made, I forget, a phenomenal amount of money. But they go, if Matt Schaub had not retired, he would have been 5th on the list.
He made a lot of. He had like 2 decent, years with the
Texans
there, and then just got paid for watching football after that. So kudos to him. Look
good, hold that clipboard. Make sure you show up for warm-ups. Don't be late for the bus.
No. Get you some comfortable shoulder pads so that when you're standing there, you're comfy and have a nice, make sure your hair is looking good in your visor and enjoy.
At the meal, make sure you don't cut in front of any coaches or anybody important. Just take what's left and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, I would take that job right now. If the Falcons want a washed up 40-year-old man over here, I would go down there and take AJ's spot.
Definitely. All right. Well, we'll be back Thursday night. We've got a lot of football going on. We got college football coming up starting this weekend, and a lot to go over as we get ready for NFL Gridiron Saturdays and Sundays, and then even a little Friday night high school stuff around here I'll be taking in. So looking forward to that, and we will be back. Anything else?
I think that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing my boy Jameis tonight. I think he's going to do it. I've got some faith in him, and they're playing the Jaguars, so there's not going to be anybody covering anyone, so he should be good to go.
You should hope so. All right, everybody, good night, and we'll be back.